Welcome to the story of a lifetime. I originally came out to India looking for a college campus to rent myself. A much smaller one than this thing, of course. But the universe has a funny way of working, and some random dots connected, and I came here, and I met the owner who started this, well, not this one specifically, but the entire Mahatma Education Society when he was 23, 2 years younger than me. Now has 48 different institutions across Maharashtra, which is the bigger region of Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, that we're in. And now we've just directly partnered. This year, we'll have 500 of the students in bachelor's mass media. Rather than just doing theoretical research, I said, hey, teach them to actually make social media. And so to start that off, this summer, I decided to do a little tester camp, figure out the kinks and stuff, what we need to teach, find a couple leaders for the classrooms for that. And then to the rest of the day, we're gonna go visit some of the other places around Mumbai and Navi Mumbai, which are gonna be key for the expansion of this entire, you could call it decentralized network, startup society, a network state, whatever you want. I've done a lot of research into where in the world the best place is to build this sort of thing. India is perfect. Close to Mumbai, it's perfect. There's the Soho House there. We have the campus here. There's a whole new campus, 1 million square feet. We're also going to take a tour to the incubation center that we're building, because the bigger thing that we're implementing into the system is all fourth year students, for their second semester, they're going to build startups. Like, why would you not do that? Here's something crazy to me. People spend their entire lives going to the workforce, which is essentially saying, here's what I'm worth for my hourly rate for the rest of my life. And no one ever spends 6 months or a year or goes into a system which helps you try to figure out, hey, can my hourly be worth more than that? Can I create a system which just generates that income? And then I don't need to work for the rest of my life. The fact that people don't even get an opportunity to go after that is crazy to me. I had to drop out of school. A lot of people don't have that privilege. So now we're just building it into the school system, the way it should be anyways. Sarah, I want you in here, bro. All you gotta do is this. Just me dog, no Priyanka. This is the head office for the school. Pretty good place to plan a global takeover. We got all the flags in the center. Just here if you'd like to see. So tell me, what's your plans to save the world?
I think by giving incentives to people to help each other.
Oh, beautiful. That's why I made this shirt. It's called Karma Farmer. If everyone realizes that the only eternal currency of the world is good karma and that all materials will eventually be worth nothing, we can start to deplete the resource of suffering in the world. And when I say deplete that, it means you just go and help all of the bad shit.
Yeah.
You accumulate good karma. End samsara today. Any other ideas?
I think the people, when they think they need to help, they don't need to think of it in a big way. You can help, but whatever means you have. You don't to have to go big to think of it as a help. You can help whatever you can.
Right. That's where we differ a little bit. I like the sentiment of anyone can help. I'd like to stress that point for sure. All the small shit helps. I'd like to stress that.
Yeah.
But I do think the goal of each person should still be to maximize their potential and their capability to help. And I think one of the biggest things, if I think about imbuing a sense of that understanding of helping into other people, because that's one of the best ways to help, is literally to solve the meta help crisis, which is the fact that we have an unenlightened capitalistic kind of society and culture who does not understand. It is not very much so a common recognition that good karma is the only eternal currency. When you look at the pace of AI in the world, super fucking clear, humans aren't really going to be, doing a lot of work in the future. There's a limited amount of time that we, in a sense, have a purpose. And to that degree, that's what fuels me to say, hey, I literally have 15 years, maybe 10, maybe 5. Some people would say 20, but the experts say 7 years. Metaculous, the best betting website for this AI stuff. One of the best things to understand how fucking crazy the AI stuff is right now is even the leading experts don't really fucking know why it's actually so good. They can't fully explain it. They can get down to what they did to get it close to there, but they don't know how it is now becoming human-like, having a world model. It is above and beyond a next prediction sequence thing like the old chatbots. We are waking up the machine god. And so the thing I like to think about is, hey, this next 15 years, this is relativistically, I think about it it's a year of my life, to the degree that I'm going to live 1,000 years. When I think I'm going to live 1,000 years, the percent changes. If I think I'm going to live 10,000 years, then I'm only needed to dedicate relativistically a month of time towards something in the standard world model of I'm going to live 80 to 100 years. And so then it becomes, yes, make a massive impact. Understand that all the small things also make massive impacts because of the butterfly effect. And you just being able to influence those around you is already massive, because it all starts with each one of us. But I do think the sentiment of move towards the highest scale that you can become, I love that. That's what I like to build. That's what I think like the monk lifestyle is. Obviously today, I think all monks have lost the way of the Dharma. That what Buddha was onto was spreading a fucking movement, and he went and did tons of shit. He didn't just meditate in temples, he meditated in public squares. Now, Buddhists are one of the best people at dedicating their time towards like saying, I'm fully devoted to this, but they've literally lost the first vow, which is to say, to save all people, which means impact. You give up all other desires to make impact. You don't give up all desires just for that purpose. They've gone and made it easier for themselves to be monk-like because it's much easier to be in a tribe in order to do something. But if they could go be monk-like in public, if they can go meet other people and show them their way of life where they're insanely happy, content with almost nothing, that's what the world needs a lot of. That's a role model to show, hey, you can live a good life with nothing. We don't have those role models in society. That's one big part when thinking about pathways forward. It's like Buddhism needs a little bit of a restructure. The good part, the Buddhist text talks about how in the future, all the Buddhists will lose the way of the Dharma and someone will come back and reteach the true meaning. So it's set into their prophecy for that already to happen, which is another reason why it's a perfect. Yeah, fuck that. Let's just make more nukes. Let's just launch another war so we can have the war machine profit tons of money for all of like the homies. And then we can build bigger skyscrapers and hotels and shit where we own and we can be rent seeking towards all the people so that they become a slave class in the future because we own all the assets. That's what we should actually do. That's what actually happens at a lot of these meetings. But they are disguised in a positive sense. World Economic Forum, collusion of the elite masses to control the narrative. The big difference between someone like WEF and the anarchist sort of movement, the New World Order versus what I like to call like the mimetic world order, meme world order, just because I think like the internet is where you can build movements. The big difference is the ideology of us versus all. And so all of the WEF people, all of those really smart people think we need more control. We're way smarter than everyone else. Therefore, it's a risk to like empower everyone else. Core difference in the narrative of those who humble themselves and then seek to be exalted is they look towards everyone else as pathways of building resiliency to our organism. Because at the end of the day, all groups, even the ones doing fucked up shit, collectively they think they're doing good shit. So it comes down to fundamental differences in how they look at the world. And the fundamental difference really is we're smarter than other people, therefore we should just control shit. Let's make sure we have more power. We know what to do. Get into governments, infiltrate. And then you have the other option of just decentralization. Trust the organism, trust the all, trust culture to upgrade itself. Instead, right now, the idea is extract from culture, get more money from the tech companies, build stronger engagement algorithms so that people get sucked into these things, maximize profit for the shareholders. This is unenlightened capitalism, but a new wave will form, enlightened capitalism. And it must, if we are to be successful in humanity's conquest, to build a fucking great future. This is the current innovation center. Office space is here, but we're building the bigger one right nearby. Right next door, we're gonna show you the new incubation center getting built. It's gonna be done in, I don't know the full completion time, but I know it'll be done by the second semester when we'll have all the startup style people. I tend to really prefer working with the computer science kids, engineering, AI, who can just build stuff online. Here's something for one of the students to do. I want them to film a daily update of the incubation center game. So down here, we're gonna have office spaces around there. We're gonna have a big pitching area right here. Lots of desks and chairs. You're gonna have phone call booths. You're gonna have a big meeting room, conference table, look like a war room. It'll be great. Second piece of property that will help us do a global takeover, tell a great narrative for the world. See the difference between Mr. Beast and Jack. Jack's less viral early on. Jack's videos are less entertaining, but Jack is investing in the foundation of the creation of projects. Mr. Beast first had to gain millions of subscribers in order to build a fucking burger company and a chocolate bar company. That's weak, that's boring, that doesn't turn into anything great. He's extracting from society by throwing literal, like probably some of the worst foods you could choose. A burger and a chocolate bar. Yes, his audience is young, but fundamentally, he's missing a little bit of that Elon Musk. I think when you combine these two sides, this is the game I like to play. I think of a Venn diagram. We've got Gandhi. These are like my spiritual leaders. I like Elon Musk, big builder, big visions. Mr. Beast I like because of the narrative, lots of creation. Who else would I throw in there? Big figure, say Dr. Vasubhai Pillai, creator of these educations, the institutions. It's a big part of it. I think going directly into the field of where education happens has never been more powerful because of the fact that today all the new AI tools that are coming out allows someone to do so much more than before, and it's really about people just learning about these new tools. Now take a small trip out to the other campus and the Estates, which is next to that campus. There's also the Prudence campus, which has that school building and potential large school property we could fully own and operate. And then there is the recreation center, which has like a pool, which has every single type of sport, has canoes for this river. So that's owned by the Brunov and Palai. So we can fully, kind of have access to that, I'm sure. The third location of the coming India empire. Personal favorite spot. Feel very at peace here. There's a lot of games. So there's one main big house here. Then there's the side guest house. There's like movie area, billiards, ping pong, vacation style house here. There's one house behind this one. Those guys we just saw, that's the chef room. And then next door, there's this just property of land, which he wants to build stuff on top of. And so I'm thinking with that as some sort of viral fun experiment there. One of the things I was thinking about doing, but would like to more so now seed someone else in doing, is you do day one of living on this bare ground until I have a house. Because he will actually finance a lot of the building of the house. But basically every single day you just like make phone calls, you try to make money, and then you eventually you order a tent. Amazon delivers here. So you just start from like scratch, like Bear Grylls survival, except real world. Then you order materials and it'll help get funded by the owner of this place. He's a friend. Dance floor, soccer, and then there's a boat for the river. There's also this place called Marriott Bonvoy. If I didn't go to Balaji, I would have rented a place here. It's actually nicer than Balaji, and it's on the river. So it's closer in between both of those schools. It's probably the ideal place. I just said, give me a fucking place with a steam room as fast as possible, and I got the Balaji first. Then I learned about this Marriott Bonvoy place. But yeah, this property is absolutely gorgeous. And I think this is where I should go on a longer spiel about just some of the vibes that are kicking up. So basically, can't express enough how insane it is to have access to, 400 students this year for creating content, 400 or 500. The campus that we're about to go visit right now, really close to this one. That's the 1 million square foot one. They are totally down to let us fill the rest of that campus. You know how Mr. Beast films a video with 1,000 people and that's crazy?
Yeah.
We could have 10,000 students paying, which would add up to millions of dollars a year, to go to the school in order to just to be a part of filming videos together. That's crazy, but that's the world we live in today. Is that would be the best institution for education of social media because it focused on social media. An institution which has thousands of students who are on social media and no one knows about it is a failed social media course. Social media is purely about attracting attention. So fundamentally, this is a fix to the education model of not being focused on value. And there is so much like great excitement in my heart to do that. It's so interesting to do that right also at the point where, AI is coming out so strong. But honestly, then again, we can sort of think about this as that's the reason why there's such a big moat inside of restructuring how colleges work or operate, is because we're just entering the time when the system of education, which upgrades its courses over time, truly fails to meet the rapid change of the digital world, of the digital economy now, and of the quickening pace of what you need to learn in order to get rich. That's what's driving this whole young entrepreneur session too. There's lots of young people getting rich because there's lots of brand new opportunity. Then that does essentially, we can sort of imagine that the value of education, the value of being able just to focus on one skill for a month or 6 months or a year is the highest it's ever been, and it's only going to get higher because we are creating new sources of power. We're restructuring where value comes from rapidly, and that means that education goes up. And so that's why I fundamentally bet initially on coming out to India to start this startup college. It is far better for me to have partnered up with the existing institution, and that's an insane grab. This place is just like YouTuber heaven in my eyes. It sleeps, I think it's just a massive amount of people, 150. People are doubling up, but they host really big weddings and events here. So, I'm just like, wow, this spot alone, it's empty 80-90% of the time. They make all their money off the weddings and events that are thrown here. And he just owns the house. So I was like, if I just like bring a massive crew out, can I rent it just for the other side? He's like, yeah. And then we also started talking about, me and our team just making websites and shit for him for his real estate company and just clicking. And he also like wants people here so he can play soccer. So there's like lots of just win-win vibes happening there too, which is super, super cool. So pairing that up of like education gets stronger and more valuable. We pair that up with the fact that we're focusing on startups. And then we pair all of this up with the compounding narrative, because the whole entire goal of doing this operation is to become the most interesting story in the world. I look at all the different YouTubers and the ones which hold their moat, the fame which comes simply from interestingness is from builders, is from innovators, bringing those people together. So you have people who naturally just gain followers because people hear about them through the grapevine. And then you have the YouTubers who eventually build businesses because that's the way in order to capitalize on followers and build real brands that have in-house value. Like, it is 100 times more profitable for these creators to build their own brands and stuff. So I've taken a weird route for my life, which was I focused on building businesses and the brands first. And now I'm looking at building larger and larger this venture studio model. And so I'm looking at it as, how does the next Alphabet form? From Google, who had built Alphabet, they were a search engine, because when the world went online in the digital era originally, it was who could sort and parse text, and that allowed them to build Gmail, etc., etc., etc. And so I'm looking at the world now and I say now the world is based off of video, but I don't think we've seen the alphabet of video. And what does that actually look like? It looks like YouTube storytelling, because that's where you can actually build a real following. And so that is my goal, is to build the next Alphabet. It's the next Google. And how do we do that? We bet on the education system, because it gives us a zero risk, actually paid opportunity to put these people through an education where they learn to create value, but we put them onto an exponential path rather than us teaching them to be super smart so they could go get some exterior job. If we're actually that good at teaching them to be way better in the job market than most people, then we want to snag them at an above price rate of the job market, because we actually 5x'd their core value by teaching them all of the exact skills. And when I say 5x their value, actually, that's really an understatement today, because the AI tools which are coming out, which take a month or a couple months to master, allow one person to do the job of 100 or 1,000. And so these individuals who really learn and become super, super in touch with these tools, and then having leading kind of courses on just intelligence in general, learning how to learn, learning just critical thinking skills, learning first principles thinking, all the stuff which all of the current billionaires talk about. And then the final piece of this all is being a nonprofit. So the bigger thing that I am pushing towards, I call systemic altruism. And to me, that's the most mass market sort of help the world the most that I can get down to. Altruism is just the idea of doing good. Systemic altruism is the idea of, to do good effectively, you have to focus on the cause and not the symptom. So one of the more effective groups or nonprofits that recently popped up, which kind of became recognized as the Silicon Valley religion, was called effective altruism, because even the atheists or people who are not God-loving, at least all can come down to the realization that to be your best, to be the most rational, to be, put yourself on the highest pedestal that you can, truly everyone can agree that do the most good that you can is the answer. And that's what all religions or any groups try to say that they're doing, and they have different routes. And so effective altruism is really cool from a branding perspective, because it says, how do we actually do the most good the most effectively? Sadly, they're ran by a centralized component called CEA, and those people have just pushed their narrative into it. It's a lot of deceleration vibes. They haven't built a lot of stuff. They've told zero stories. I went and got them 10 million views on Giphy. It's mass marketing. I took quotes from their website and branded it with EA, because I'm more people should hear about this. I didn't know about EA for years, and I wrote multiple blog posts, and I made this website called Neo-Stoicism. I made one called Existism with similar stuff to what EA had about how, what do I know and what can I do about it? I know there's a lot of suffering in the world. I should maximize my decrease of capability to push towards suffering. The reason why I'm making this website and the Neo-Stoicism brand is because, I see the transhumanists there, but they're just on Reddit, not really doing anything. And I wanted to build the Stoicism aspect to it, which was, what can I do about it and get stuff done? And I didn't see a group online that did that. And that's because they weren't marketed wide enough. It's not that it didn't exist. I searched everywhere and I actually couldn't find them. They became more mainstream recently, but through that Giphy stuff that I did, they told me to take it down. They said, we don't want those sorts of people. They wanted people from top colleges. They want to attract high-level people. And so it had the same elite mindset, which I talked about earlier in the video, of the distinction between we know what's right, which is give us power, we want to do AI safety, you guys decelerate, we can fix these things. And rather than focusing on how do we just make our entire organism the strongest as possible. And so it's that difference in thinking of self versus being the self as a part of a bigger thing, and just focusing on the bigger thing as the best way to maximize the self is the piece of me which I consider the most enlightened piece of me, and the distinction between how a lot of these groups operate in the world who do call themselves as, helping the world, saving the world, etc. Because that's a good goal, but obviously it's not being done well. Why is no one really focused on solving that problem of the extraction of our entire media? You can think of media on a scale of thinking of us as an organism as the nervous system. So this is the thing which funnels all thought, all feelings towards other people and kind of individually gives them a worldview. And so right now our media systems are maximizing the amount of engagement time, which maximizes controversy, divisiveness, etc. Each individual has a voodoo doll built to them, digital voodoo doll. And what the algorithm is doing is taking all signals that are being sent out in the world, and not all, because we do still have peer-to-peer messaging, but most of our information doesn't come from us texting. Most of our attention doesn't come from us directly contacting other people. It comes from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc., etc. TikTok, big one, Reels, Shorts, and these are truly have a misaligned system. Its goal is to keep you on your chair or computer or in bed all day, almost like Medusa who turns you to stone. Look it in the eye. It's getting stronger and stronger, so it's getting better and better at that. The children are starting earlier and earlier on this thing, and their brains are getting wired to need higher amounts of dopamine. Depression, suicide rates are on the rise, big time. There's a big mental health push. If I look at that from a systemic perspective, because look, we just want to be fucking smart and actually fix shit and do it on a big scale, then you hone in on the fact that media is the driving force of all people's identities and actions and how they view the world. Currently, we're not spreading enlightenment. We're not pushing people up towards their highest selves. We're devolving people. And so that is the core of where, hey, if we can route over here, we can switch culture to understand that as the cigarette and it's low status, and we can build the empowerment algorithm, then, it's something that you can think about as a driving point of all other existing problems in the world. Because if we're all emboldened and strengthened, we can all tackle these problems in a higher and more effective way. We all realize that we're all distracted. We all realize that these times are far more important than we individually are, able to be connected with, and we're disempowered. We have misaligned AI today. This is the biggest thing about EA, which irks me, is that they don't focus on the systemic causes to a large degree. They don't focus on storytelling. They don't focus on the masses and emboldening everyone. For example, the main thing that they said is best that they can do, buy mosquito nets. That is actually the most effective way to decrease just dollars per decreasing deaths. What that does is it doesn't solve any of the real underlying problems of the world, which has led us to this place. And if we don't fix those, then we'll never cross the bridge over to happy, healthy lifestyle for everyone, which at its core is fundamentally our unenlightened capitalistic nature, which has the extraction of other people rather than the empowerment as the best way to do good in one's life. You want to be successful, go extract from people. Now you have more money. Now you're a winner. If we can kind of view that as bad and enter this era of enlightened capitalism, how much good karma are you gaining? How much empowerment are you doing? How good are you on your own? Well, that movement's kind of here. There's the Giga Chad, there's Sigma. It's rising. It's in response. The organism is resilient, and we're seeing signs of this movement, but there is still a lot of work to be done, and there is still a massive need to tell a really, really big story, because these YouTubers, Andrew Tate himself, have shifted the narrative and timeline more than we can really imagine. They truly have a push on culture bigger than any government. And so that to me then is where I look at myself and I say, I want to become my highest self. I'm going to do my maximal good. I want to find as much good karma as possible. And that's where this narrative has birthed from. Now, the difference in the way that I operate than, say, Andrew Tate is that I look to build systems that are bigger than myself. I look to be a mouthpiece and an ecosystem builder, because I think Alphabet and Google was so successful at really being ingrained in the world because they built so many different components. They had email, they acquired YouTube, they acquired so many different sections of things, and their Google search engine itself was their attention source. So the new attention source is YouTube. The new venture builder is through education systems, because that is where right now today the highest value is anyways, is people who are not having chosen a life path, have high neuroplasticity, and are ready to just learn and figure stuff out. So we're combining all of those things, beautiful places with a amazing partnerships in India, the cheapest place in the world to turn capital into high intelligence. And, you know, I think anyone who understands how big this potential is, all of mine is for you. Nothing I have do I plan to keep long term. I really just want to see the missions that I've ideated move forward. I want to empower and embolden others because I am operating under this enlightened capitalistic framework, which means if I switch you into gaining a fuck ton of good karma, I get it all too. I shifted your timeline. That's how enlightened capitalism works, is that you get passive income from all the other people you shift up. It's why I focus on GIFs and memes at a mass scale distribution, because I'm sending small butterfly effects into the universe, and who knows how much good karma I'm farming. One day I might be able to tell. One day a supercomputer may be able to allow me to understand that all these shifts and small things that I had put out on the internet that reached hundreds of millions of people really did make a large impact. Until then, I can just believe and keep fucking vibing and make sure that our path becomes even bigger and even bigger.